Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Oscar's Corner Cafe. Today's date is post Valentine's Day, and I hope that all of you had a phenomenal weekend with your partner and your loved one. And we are going to be diving into some pretty interesting things in this particular episode. As you can see, some things are slowly evolving within the channel. I'm working out the backdrop a little bit, the lighting situation. There's a lot of components and moving parts that comes into creating a podcast and making tweaks and changes when you're doing it solo. You're going to fail a lot more times than you're going to succeed. But the whole point of this whole entire thing is try to keep going and keep it and just keep grinding. And I did want to point something out. So in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that some of the episodes that I posted have been a little bit, I guess you can say, controversial. And what I mean by that in the sense that I'm speaking about BBLs, I'm speaking about body augmentation, I'm giving my opinion on it. And just recently with the Bad Bunny concert and everything that all that encompassed and how it, I guess you could say it either divided or it brought the community together. People's feedback and responses when it comes to that has been mixed. And I laugh and I giggle because I see the feedback, I see the comments, and thank you for the people that are responding within the channel and kind of voicing your opinion and perspective on it. And I'm really glad about it. I'm really thankful because, again, I know that people are watching the channel and you're engaging. If you are not liking the video or the content or the way that it's being communicated to you because maybe it does not resonate with you and you don't like it, hey, that's a form of engagement. That's what the whole point is, right? And the fact that you stood this point and you're still listening at this point and level means that you are receptive to at least hearing a different take. Now, it might not necessarily reflect your own, and at all, it does not mean that, oh my God, you're an extreme left or an extreme right. It's just simply a full-blown understanding of different various perspectives from where people stand and how they perceive things, including the media. So in today's episode, I'm going to dive into the current challenges I'm having with my kids as far as parenting and with teenagers preparing for quinceañeras that it's slowly approaching. But not only that, I do want to talk about what happened over the weekend. And then I want to dive into 3 particular cases that just recently happened that involve children, that involve us, protecting our kids, and some things that maybe we should be on the lookout for when we are looking and picking up our kids, especially when it comes to daycare. So fair warning, some of the stuff might trigger some folks. So I do like to have a full-blown disclaimer. This episode will be goofy, but at the same time, it will be serious on the back end. So hopefully you guys can stay through the entire episode and then so you're able to engage and we can have a conversation, right? So number 1, let's dive right in. So this weekend, we had a tournament at my daughter's competitive soccer program. And I'm sure I've mentioned this a lot until I'm going to be blue in the face. I'm very involved as far as when it comes to my children's sports programs, what they do, what they're not doing. And I'm a very big believer in really supporting your child to be a better version of themselves. What that looks like, I don't know. I mean, that's why they're children. They go to all these different courses and classes. You put them in different programs so they're able to enjoy themselves and manifest those internal abilities that maybe they might not even know that they had, so they can enjoy it, right? At least they're your kids. Because once you get into high school and puberty hits and you start having actual semi-adult relationships, and I don't mean the whole like body thing. I mean that the whole emotional connection with another human being where you're literally making yourself so vulnerable to that other person that it really throws your mind and emotions in a total flux, right? You don't know what the hell is going on. So sports for me, in my opinion, it sort of allows these kids to focus on something way more productive, including education in schools, and keeps them out of the whole social media pressures of having to live up to something that is fake, in my opinion. Like, for example, when you guys look at these podcasts and you guys see these guys doing these phenomenal shows, perfect stuff like that, that you're just like, damn, dude, that's a great show. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of takes and deletes. There's a lot of redos, rewriting a script. You might scrap episodes altogether because maybe you're not necessarily in line anymore with what you were going to talk about. And this episode is one of that. I've had to record this now 3 times. This is my third and final before I finally was able to streamline a little bit of the content that I wanted to bring up. And so anyway, so we went to maybe like a city that's away from here, maybe about 45 minutes away from here, actually about an hour. And we had this tournament, and this tournament in particular, and I like to use comp soccer and sports in general because it's a teaching opportunity for all of us, for managing our own emotions and how we engage with our children and how they develop, how they encompass failure, how do they perceive it when they're not being a good version of how they are. And we went into this tournament knowing full well, even when the coach had actually prepped us, that this tournament was going to be one of the most challenging ones that we've done in a while. And we've been to State Cup before, and those tournaments themselves were fairly challenging, but this one was a little bit more difficult than even that. And so we were placed in a pretty tough bracket, and we had a couple games on Saturday when we played. We had one mid-morning game and then one in the afternoon. And without diving in and boring you guys too much into the details of that first and second game, the first game, we put up a fight. We made some defensive mistakes. And the girls, their body language, their posture, it didn't quite seem defeated yet, but you knew that they were kind of feeling that this competition, this level of competition in this particular tournament was way more advanced than ones that we've been to before. And as a parent, you kind of have to get yourself ready for seeing that, for seeing a different skill set out on the field that your child is going to have to overcome. And then you're going to monitor and see what they're doing and how they're responding to the challenges and manage that, right? Are they going to have really bad body language? Are they going to feel upset when they lose? And what they lose by, we don't know, right? Your kids are going to be receptive to all these games and manage their own emotions their own way. So it's a 50-50. You don't quite know exactly how it's going to turn out. And after the first game, you know, we had our lunch. We went to Chipotle right after, and I noticed that my daughter was starting to feel a little bit sad and down in the dumps because she was very upset in the way that she played herself in the previous game. And again, this was a very key opportunity for myself and for my wife to kind of navigate that and scale that back and kind of tell her, hey, you know, it was a really tough game. It was against a team that you don't typically play. You didn't really have a chance or an opportunity to really scout them. So you really went in there blind. You're playing against a higher tiered team, 2 levels above than you. And also on top of that, they're also a year older. So the disparity in talent and also in the physical attributes of these players from one age to the other is substantial. So the way that they looked like basically like elementary school kids playing against middle schoolers. And that's what it looked like. And because that's what it was. They were playing players that were a year and a half older than they were, but they held their own. Now, the second game that they played was supposed to be on paper a little bit more even because the team is somebody who's comparable in age with them. However, that team was made up of much higher level talent than our team. And I love our girls and their skill sets, etc., but we're not quite there yet. And it showed. I mean, we played against this team, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They whipped our butt, you know, and it got to the point where you reach a certain amount of goals that the other team can score before it starts hindering your progress within the tournament. So in this case, what I'll give it an example, like in baseball, you know how they have the mercy rule, where basically if you score more than 10 points, you either stop the game or they tell you to stop scoring altogether. In soccer is something very similar, that once you reach 7 points in this particular tournament, you can't score past that. So you have to play keep away for the remainder of the game. unless the team that you're playing catches up with you, then you can add additional goals on top of that. But in this case, the team that we were playing, there was no way. The skill set was different. So the body language after the game was very poor from everybody across the board, from the coach, from the parents, from the students, because it's like, you have to think about it like this. You're driving and going out of your way to go to these tournaments to get your butt whooped. You know what I mean? Like, you're literally driving like an hour and a half to get scrapped. You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, that's the commitment you're going into. But to teach what exactly, right? So for parents that aren't necessarily open to this, the best way to teach leaders how to lead is understanding failure and what it feels like. So you know what not to feel like and why you need to improve, why you need to get better, why you need to practice on your drills, why you need to practice on hitting, why do you practice so much on pitching? Because you have to stay on top of it, because you run into these teams and these players that have a ridiculous, massive gap as far as talent. And then you sit there and wondering why. Well, you have to self-reflect as a parent and what you want your child to be, right? And we're at that stage right now where they're at that age that moving forward, that's where the students are going to have to figure out what they want to focus on. Because if we're going to be a student like a jack of all trades and a master of none, it's not going to be a very productive result. And if your child is playing one sport and they're also playing this other, that's great for their physical attributes and development. But as far as them developing within the actual sport itself, it's going to be challenging. You can't practice to be a flag football player and be a good soccer player at the same time. It's just two different sports, two different skill sets, two different attributes that each one benefits from. You can't be an excellent baseball player and be a very good basketball player. You have to pick one or the other, especially if you're going to be doing comp sports. If you're going to be doing recreational sports or Division 3 or Division 4, where the skill levels might not be as necessarily advanced, you can kind of get away with juggling both. But you're not really going to be a master of either or. So at some point as a parent, you're going to have to make that tough call and look at your child and have that conversation and be like, look, if we're going to focus on one sport, this is what we're going to focus on, and we're going to train you to be the better version of it, right? Now, with the understanding and managing our own emotions and our own internal narrative that this kid might not necessarily be a Bo Jackson type, they might not necessarily be an Alex Rodriguez type, but they will do their best, and they are going to be a better version than you in that particular sport, whether it's volleyball, softball, whatever that is, track, baseball, football, golf, cricket, lacrosse, or even pickleball. Doesn't matter. But the team came around, they turned it around the second day, and they played up again, and they were focused and locked in. They had phenomenal results in the early morning game, and then they played very well in the second game, and they actually beat a team that was ranked 20 times higher than we were, that our girls were, and our team beat them. So that was very positive. So it ended the weekend on a high, on a boost. We ended up finishing third in the entire tournament, which was a total surprise to us, because originally when we were looking at the schedule, looking at the tournament, we thought we were going to be placed a lot less than we did. But something about these competitive sports and being challenged that really brings things out of certain players, and your team is either going to respond to a challenge or they're going to buckle. And proud of our team that they did not buckle. They held it down. But I did want to dive in a little bit, and I'm not sure if some of you have done this. So we, as parents, when you're traveling and doing all this stuff, you have to make a decision whether you're going to stay nearby and local so you're able to catch the early morning games, or will you be the one parent that's going to GPS track everything and you're going to see whether you can actually make it. You just have to get up a little bit earlier than normal and just drive there and come right back. Well, some parents decided to travel back home because there was such a massive gap between games that they felt it was just more productive for them to do so. we decided to stay local and make a Valentine's Day trip out of it, which we did. And it was absolutely beautiful spending time with my family, my kids, and my wife. And I did want to share a story though about it. And I was laughing the entire time while we were at this particular hotel. And again, to all my fellow folks, and you guys have done travel, and there's always been some weird experiences in hotels, right? We all have them. Whether you think or you suspect that somebody's spying on you, somebody has a hidden camera in your room, somebody's doing something weird, lights don't work, the housekeeping is kind of wonky, it's kind of sketchy or shady, things like that. And in this particular case, the hotel was great. However, the bathroom doors were see-through. Yes, they were see-through. They were tempered glass, but it doesn't leave much for the imagination. And I'm not sure if many of you have had this problem. I mean, I'm a dark-skinned individual, right? So you put me in a room that's all white decor with a fluorescent light, and you can see me, my body, through this damn window. There is nothing to hide, dude. If I'm dropping a deuce, I'm dropping a deuce. And it was funny because when my wife went to the restroom, my daughter's turning the corner by the entrance, just kind of picking up her luggage, and she looks at the door, and she sees the silhouette of my wife sitting on the toilet. So it's like, so she starts screaming and hollering and laughter because she's like, what the hell, right? So again, the time goes by, and then it's my turn, and I sit down, and I'm taking a leak. And there's multiple windows and tempered glasses everywhere, so you can actually see inside the toilet, it's weird. I don't know who the fudge decided to engineer this, or what was the concept behind it, what was the theme behind it. I'm like, I would understand if you are in a room where it's just you, and there's just a king size bed or a twin size bed, and it's just you and maybe a plus one. But in a room where you are sharing with multiple people, let alone your kids, you don't want to be in rooms that are fucking see-through. I mean, like, I had to literally, but the other thing too, they had the closet inside the bathroom. So how is that logic make sense to you, where we're going to have the bathroom with the clear window, and there's your closet that's inside where you put in your clothes in the bathroom? So if you're outside and you're taking a shower, you have to wait for that person to get out of the shower so you can go in and change. And what I find funny as hell with that one is, like, I had to literally turn off the lights when I was going bathroom because I was so self-conscious that my kids would see me, and they did. They could see my silhouette, and everybody's laughing their butt off on the other side of the window. My son is over here banking on the door saying, Dad, cover up. Dad, cover up. And I'm just like, dude, I can't help it, bro. Like, I'm literally just, I have to go bathroom and I have to wipe. You know what I mean? I can't turn off the lights. I mean, what do you want me to do? So I'm like duck walking to the door, and I'm turning off the lights, and I'm laughing the entire time. I'm completely in tears, just laughing, because I'm literally traumatizing my entire room with my shenanigans, right? Now, women is one thing, but when you're a male, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, man. There's something about when dudes go bathroom is just not the most graceful thing to see. And in this case, that's what it was. And then the other part of it, and this is going to sound embarrassing, but I'm going to share it. I had to go restroom. I had to go number 2, and the stupid vent in the bathroom doesn't work. So I'm pollinating the environment in the situation, and I'm like bellowing in the ambiance at this point. There is no vent or extractor for the odor that's going to come out. So I'm like, you can see me, my silhouette, the stank, it was just a complete disaster. And I don't know who the hell's logic was behind this bathroom, but dude, bro, like, you literally went to maybe a 10-year college to get your degree in architecture and engineering. Make it make sense. All right. So for you people out there that are designing or know of hotels that are this way, I would love to hear your horror stories and share them with me so we can kind of go back and forth, because I thought this stuff was hilarious as hell. I have plenty of other stories when it comes to like hotel rooms and situations and things like that, even in some public bathrooms. where the stalls are see-through and you can literally see through an individual dropping a shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny, dude. I don't know why, but it's funny. It's a funny situation because you're walking into the restroom expecting to relieve yourself and you see another individual put it on a show. You know, that's not what we're trying to do here. You know what I mean? It's bad enough and the stress enough that I'm having through with my restroom. I don't need to have an audience. You know what I mean? Like, it's just stop. Let me have my moment. All right. Let me pick up my phone and scroll through reels and look at my videos and just let me have my moment. It's my 2-3 minutes of me, just my peace time. I don't need to be paranoid about who the hell I am shocking outside my door because they could see me. So I thought that was funny as hell. The other thing too that I've recently done as well is I've noticed, guys, and I don't know if you guys have done the same thing. I've noticed that with my teenager, it's getting progressively more difficult to do the homework with them. And I'm not sure if you guys are the same way, but the math in particular, guys, that I am running into with my teen is absolutely diabolical. I don't know where the hell they're getting all these forms and formulas before. I mean, now apparently there's 6 or 7 different ways to do math, to solve division, and to show your work. I'm like, dude, I can't do this stuff, right? And then I'm looking at the paper, and it's hilarious as hell because she's struggling in math in one particular assignment. And this past week, just before we went on to the trip for the tournament, I started looking at her homework and I was laughing because I felt like a dummy. I felt like a goofball. Because the funny shit is, like, I wasn't good at math to begin with. And now I'm looking at my daughter's math. And we're both failing. We're both doing just as bad. There's been other comics speaking on this stuff, how it's hilarious, and some of them have made a skit out of it, but it's true. I saw it and I thought it was funny as hell, but I couldn't quite relate to it yet. Now I'm relating to it. History is the same thing. What the hell are they teaching the kids? I mean, that's the one thing that I am proud of, that I've been able to be receptive and do my own research. I love history. I love world history, not American history, world history. And my kids are having a difficult time understanding geography. Like, they don't even know where Central America is. They don't even know where Nicaragua is. And that's a country that's in their bloodline. That's in my heritage. That's in my blood. Little God knows I've spoken about it at length. And they don't even know where it is. And then one of them, my middle child, I'm going to embarrass the shit out of her on this one. She did not even know where the hell Alaska was. She thought Alaska was in Hawaii, you know? And I'm just like, oh my God, dude. For a second, I thought she was lying, but she was telling the truth. She was really lost. So it's funny that now that my dad heard the news that he literally bought us like this massive poster for geography, right? A big, massive map where basically we're putting a pin in all the countries that we've been to, and also the countries that we know people are from. We put a pin on it so they know where those countries are as a point of reference, at least visually. But back to the math thing, it's been insane for me to realize that. And now my daughter's going to be going into high school, and I am scared and apprehensive because I don't know how the hell I'm going to react to that. I know I've been Googling a shit ton of math problems lately, and I don't know if you guys have done the same, but the logic and the math and the history these days that these kids are going through is way different than the one that we learned from. So if you are in the same boat as me, I'm with you. If you are a teenager listening to this show, listening to this particular podcast, you know when your parent is nodding their head saying, I kind of get it. They ain't getting shit. We're just as confused as you are. We're trying to make sense of the nonsense that this teacher's giving you, man. But we're going to try our hardest to solve it. And we refuse to admit that we don't understand it. But bear with it. And the other part, if you know that we are explaining something as a massive train wreck, let us be that train wreck, all right? Don't correct us. Don't be a smart aleck, all right? Just watch it and enjoy, because I'll tell you what we're doing right now, we're creating memories, because 5-10 years from now, when you're in college, you're thinking back like, damn, I remember when my dad was struggling with this particular topic. And you're going to be like, hey, Pops, I finally figured it out, dude. Let me teach you some math. But of course, our stubborn asses are probably going to be like, no, man, I don't need no damn teaching. I got this myself. I can Google this myself. No. Come on, guys. I just thought it was funny. So I wanted to share that with you. The other thing that happened on the news, and I kind of want to dive into, I don't know if you guys know, but do you guys know who Cain Velasquez is? And if you don't, that's fine. If you do, that's great. Then you'll know exactly where I'm going through with this. So we're gonna pivot gears and change gears on the particular episode right now, because I do want to dive into. So for those of you who do not know, Mr. Cain Velasquez was born in July 28th, 1982. He grew up in Salinas, California, here locally, and he's a proud Mexican-American athlete who became known for his work ethic, his stamina, his intensity, and overall just being a very phenomenal wrestler. Mr. Cain Velasquez attended Arizona State University and competed in D1 wrestling in general, and had a very successful career. Outside of sports, Cain Velasquez became a family man. He's married. He's got 2 children. His personal life became widely public, and this is where I'm going to dive into a little bit. But before all that, he fought in the UFC professionally from 2006 up until 2019. And he was pretty famous because he was a beast when it came to the heavyweight division. One of his most predominant victories was him winning the championship above Brock Lesnar. You guys remember him? And then coming back, losing, and then winning against Junior Dos Santos. Again, 2 very excellent UFC fighters in the heavyweight division back in his day. So highly respected gentleman, even from the Hispanic community. My guy was one of those athletes that you rooted for. Best known for having one of the craziest staminas that you can think of as a heavyweight athlete to have. I mean, he had a motor, and that was his style, where he would suffocate you and exhaust the crap out of you. And once you were spent and tired and he got his hands on you, you were done. It was a wrap. You might as well just check it in. So he had a professional record of 14-3, 14 wins, 3 losses. He was a 2-time UFC heavyweight champion. He had 2 successful title defenses, and that was it. Now, this is where things kind of take a turn. So imagine you as an athlete, you as a sports person, you as a professional, you where you are right now, whatever the profession that you do, whether you're an engineer, electrician, whether you work at Ghirardelli, whether you work at the ferries, whatever job you have, regardless of what it is. And let's say that you have young children. Now, as a parent, we always err with the side of caution when it comes to childcare. And childcare, unfortunately, in the United States is ridiculously expensive. It doesn't necessarily make it easy for you to raise a child. And if you don't have resources for you to rely on and help you as far as taking care of your kid, you oftentimes have to go to these daycare places and leave and entrust your child with these people that you don't know. Now, with the caveat that you hope that these individuals, they've done background checks, they've done psychological assessments, which some schools do. I don't know how thorough they are in others. And the ones that I'm really particularly talking about are the ones that are more private and the smaller ones, right? Now, the smaller ones tend to be a little bit more affordable for first-time parents, for people that are struggling and on a budget. These might be more in line with what they could afford at that moment in time, and they have to make sacrifices. So they entrust their young child to these places with the hope that your child is going to be taken care of properly. Now, and this is where I would hope that some of the things change. And I know that the state provides help and assistance for those families that just don't make enough or can't afford childcare. There is programs out there that are able to provide help and assistance, and that's beautiful. However, you either have to be really struggling or you don't qualify at all. And that's so unfair. My wife and I went through this even with our youngest son, that we wanted to give him the same opportunities that our two oldest had. And my wife and I were kind of looking for different jobs. We were transitioning into different professions. My wife was getting a promotion, but she didn't know what that was going to look like. So our schedules were going to be very wonky. So we looked to the previous schools that we went to, and it was ridiculously expensive. We're talking about maybe $300 to $400 a week just for childcare. That's almost $2,000 a month just for childcare alone for one child. And that's with zero assistance, because according to California, we made too much. So we didn't qualify. So we had to make some tough decisions. We had to change and pivot and make certain changes to our lifestyle. And we had to take different positions, different jobs that allowed us to have the flexibility. Fortunately, by the grace of God, we were able to find what we found, and we were able to afford it. My wife works from home 100% of the time. She's remote. And I have the career that I have, where I'm going from job site to job site, but in between those travels, I come home and I do my work. So it's the flexibility has been a benefit, because we've been able to provide for him more of us than I think our children did. I think our daughters had more. I'm getting tongue tied. They had way more opportunity in regards to being exposed to way more school-ready activities like alphabets, numbers. She was way more advanced by the time she actually finally started kindergarten, while my son, because he was with us and he was homeschooled the majority of the time, there were certain limitations to the stuff that we could do because of our schedule. But in regards to Mr. Cain Velasquez, the incident that prompted all of this was that back in 2022, if I want to get this right, let me get my details right here. So back in 2022, there was a high-speed chase in Northern California in which Velasquez fired a gun at a truck. And Mr. Cain Velasquez started shooting at an intersection and then followed the truck for about 11 miles through San Jose when he was finally captured. There were 3 people in the vehicle, and Velasquez was targeting one particular individual, Gary Goularte, 46. And he is the son of the owner of this particular daycare and establishment. And the incident that happened was that, according to allegations, the son, Harry Goularte, was found to have been doing inappropriate acts with or to Cain's child. And the child finally, after numerous times of trying to get the information out of them, they finally came clean that, hey, these were the events and these are the things that were happening at this particular daycare. And when Cain Velasquez heard the news from his child, his first instinct was to go out and defend the honor of his child. And the way that he acted, he basically followed the man. He did want to kill him. He did want to murder him. And shot up the vehicle, shot up the truck because he wanted to confront him, and accidentally struck Mr. Harry Goularte's stepfather, who was in the vehicle with him along with the owner of the daycare. So when that happened, basically the case went to court and he was indicted. So in February 2022, Goularte was arrested and charged with 1 felony count for lewd acts with a minor under the age of 14. The alleged victim, identified as Velasquez, then 4-year-old son, reportedly told investigators that Goularte had inappropriately on multiple occasions at a daycare facility owned by Goularte's mother. During a key preliminary hearing back in February 2023, Velasquez's son, then 5 years old, publicly implicated Goularte for the first time. So the little kid finally had the nerve to speak out on everything that happened, and kudos to the kid for saying. And the testimony was crucial in the judge's decision because Goularte basically denied everything, and to this date he still does, saying that the kid was conjuring up stuff, which I don't doubt. I highly doubt it. I don't think a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old would conjure up this type of story. And so then the legal proceedings and delays. So Goularte has consistently maintained his innocence, though, pleading not guilty to the charges against him. His case has faced numerous delays in the beautiful judicial system, with trial dates being pushed back multiple times, a lot of the times because of his defense and people trying to delay his convictions. And that's where we're at now. What Mr. Velasquez did, he filed a civil lawsuit against the establishment and against the individual. But before all that happened, Mr. Velasquez was charged with basically the charges in particular. Let me see. It looks like he was attempted murder or something else. I believe manslaughter, or I don't know the exact terminology that he was convicted with, but the point is that he was convicted to 5 years in prison. Cain Velasquez was. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that, dude, how the hell can he go to jail for protecting his kid? Well, what do we do? What happens, right? So we ask ourselves, what happens when the system feels too slow, too soft, doesn't act enough? And do we get mad? Do we get upset? How would we react? How would you react in that particular scenario? If your innocent child is telling you and communicating with you everything that's happened. And I want you to think about that, and think about that in the back of your head. And this could be your sibling, this could be your nephew, your niece, it could be your cousin, your little brother. How do you react? And where do you say, no, I'm okay, I'm going to take this through the proper channels, or are you going to take this within your own hands? How would you do it? What would you do as a parent? I know what I would do. And it's one of the reasons why I'm a very big supporter of Cain Velasquez and what he did. And this is going to sound very, very macabre and very, very upsetting. But do I think the results should have been different in the case with this gentleman? And yeah, I do, because I think that Cain should have done more, and I'm sure he would have. And again, you never want to wish harm on anybody. You never want to celebrate or glorify or promote violence on anyone. You don't. You want the judicial system to go through the processes. However, me personally, again, this is my own perspective on this. I think that as a parent, you have every single right to protect your child by any means necessary. And what that means like and what that looks like, it's up to you. But if anybody's going to put hands on my child in any way, shape, or form, then it's going to come with a lot of consequences. So you as a parent, what do you do? You know, that's a question that I literally asked the audience. What do you do? What would you do in that situation? Would you celebrate it? Are you going to be with the family? Oh, this and this and that. No, I'm sorry. You're not going to convince me on that. When a child is 4 years old, they don't have the capabilities or understanding or the logic in their mind that what's being done to them is inappropriate. They don't understand that. You know, and that's one of the biggest problems that we have. Little kids have no concept of that. They have no logic. They're vulnerable, and you're trusting them in these places to take care of your kid. And then you come to find out that they're not. And there's been multiple cases, and a lot of cases in daycares where they've been mismanaged. They're mismanaging their behaviors of their employees and how they take care of children. There's a lot of people that have gone to jail. There's a lot of people that have done really lewd acts to children that have been in prison, that are sitting in prison right now as we speak. But as a parent, what do you do? What do you act? I mean, do you get mad at Cain for reacting the way that he did and he went to jail celebrating, you know, like not celebrating, but going to jail for 5 years and missing out on his kid's life for those 5 years for his acts and anger towards this individual. Well, you know what? As a parent, if that had been my mom or dad, and I knew he went to jail for this and Y reason, that gentleman is an even more of a hero for me, because I know that my dad will do whatever it takes for me. He will protect me to all hands of hell. And as a parent, as a dad, and as a mom, that's what we would do. So I'm going to give you 2 more cases, and then I'm going to shut this thing down. Number 1, so there's a couple of famous cases, and I want to bring this to you guys, for you guys that don't know. What happens when the system is too slow? One happened in the airport, and it was caught on camera. The other happened inside a courtroom. So one is justice, revenge. Frame it how you want it. When people cheer these moments, what are they really cheering? Closure? Are you sharing closure of the event? Are you cheering the protection of the parent for the child? And are you cheering because you were able to provide pain onto that individual that harmed that innocent individual or a child for you? I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to lay out what happened and what it reveals about you as a parent. So let me give you the very first one. It's a very famous one, right? So the case number 1 was Gary Plouch, airport shooting. So in Louisiana in 1984, Gary Plouch, the dad, he kidnapped. Oh no, Gary Plouch's son or child was kidnapped, and bad things happened to the poor kid. And in response, Duche, he's located and he was taken into custody. So he's being escorted. The gentleman who's being accused of the crimes and convicted, Jeff Doucette, the abductor. And he's walking through the airport, and you see Mr. Gary Plouch in the background. And this is a very famous video, and he's pretending to be on a payphone. And as Jeff Doucette is walking from the courtroom or from the airport, or either being transported to whatever that is, he basically takes it upon his own, and he provides a gun. He has a gun in his pocket, in his coat, and he fires on Jeff Doucette before he even sets foot in courtroom after that, unaliving him. And Gary's at the airport. Gary shoots Doucette in close range, and in the escort, the event is captured on camera. Now, what's the aftermath? Shock moment. Then the footage spread on social media and all these platforms. And then now this is where I guess you could say the public can take one or two ways. And I'm not here to tell you which one, but this is the one that was taken back in 84. The majority of people said that he did what any father would do. The other half, however, said that he's still a murderer. So is it vigilante justice? What do you do? So what happened? Gary faced serious charges, but he ended up with probation, no prison time. Why it matters? Because the courtroom becomes part of the cultural story. Compassion versus the rule of law. And so that raises the question, does emotions shape justice? So is it vigilante justice that he did this for the X and Y reason, and because of that, we're going to be completely okay with it? And are you going to be okay with it? In my opinion, I think he did what he should have. And I completely agree. If it's going to be vigilante justice like that, and you're going to be supporting and helping out your child for something that's being done to them, do it. Because that child is going to be scarred for the rest of their life. These people that say that's still a murder, yeah, but you're not living with that kid that's eventually going to become an adult. They're going to have so much emotional and mental scars within their head that's going to be the responsibility of that parent, that grandpa, that uncle, that entire family to basically now pivot and tiptoe around every single emotion and outburst that this child is going to have growing up because of the scars caused by this individual. So you're talking about a lifetime of damage caused by this individual on you, on your child, and you couldn't do anything about it. So he's still a murderer. Yeah, he is. But in my opinion, he did the right thing. So let me give you another case. And again, and if you guys disagree with this, by the way, feel free to comment, dislike, or whatever it is. But if you're not going to like a comment or like a video or like a stream or like the episode, I want to know why. Is it the content, the delivery? What is it? Because I definitely want to make things better. But at the same time, if it's because I just disagree with you, then say I disagree with you. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to come back to you with, I'm not going to get into that tit for tat with you. This channel is way more than that. We're all mature adults here. And you have your perspective, you have your narrative, and I have my own. But in this one in particular, this is where I sit. So this is case number 2. Marianne Bachmeier. Okay. So this was in Lübeck, West Germany in 1981. And there were 3 people involved in this. Marianne Bachmeier, the mom, Anna, her daughter, and Klaus Grabowski, the defendant. So again, we're going to keep it very brief. So the man was accused of doing really bad stuff to Anna, the daughter of Marianne. And I'm not going to go into details of what it was out of respect for the child. I'm just not going to do that. The point is that there were moments that they would scar a child or any woman for the rest of their life. And it happened to a child. So Marianne takes law into her own hands, and she enters the courtroom with a gun, and she shoots the defendant during the court proceedings. He doesn't even get judged. So he passes away from the shooting. Now, what happened after? There was courtroom chaos. This becomes a national, international headline. And then there's a public debate that happens. Some see it as a mother's raw grief made visible. Others fear what it means if courtrooms become places of personal vengeance. The cultural factor on this one is a trip. Courtroom violence feels like an attack on the institution itself. So, as an individual in a courtroom, you are now feeling unsafe because you're going to have consequences to your actions and your behavior. Whew, that's a tough one. I think there's a lot of cases where a lot of parents have shown a lot of restraint in some of the stuff that's happened to those kids. And now in 2026, I think that with social media and things like that, you have more of a support with this. But then again, how do you manage it? How would I react? I think that these 3 cases with Mr. Cain Velasquez, with Marianne Bachmeier, and with Mr. what's his name again? With Mr. Gary Lausch. I agree with them 1000%. Now, you might ask yourself, what happened to Marianne? Well, this is what happened in Germany after she did what she did. She was convicted of manslaughter and firearms and related charges, and she was only sentenced to 6 years. Why it matters? The system holds a firm line. Grief doesn't grant immunity. It also shows a contrast to Palauch, different country, courtroom context, different outcome. And the comparison. So, public hallway, center of justice, probation versus prison sentence, public narrative, fathers protecting son versus mothers disrupting court. So what do the stories tell us? The cases reveal how grief can turn into a demand for control. They show how society sometimes understands violence without officially approving it. And they force a question, is the legal system meant to satisfy our emotions or restrain them? It's a great question. So where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? Where, as a parent, do you come in and say, I'm going to step in and I'm going to take law into my own hands? And where am I just going to let the system do their thing? Because I'll tell you what, right now, the current system as it sits right now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, because there's a lot of people out there on the road, out there living free, that have done worse cases than these worst cases than these 3 scenarios, and they're still out and about. And I don't know how I feel about that, because when we protect our children so much, and even as an educator, you love those kids so much that you're educating too. Gosh forbid that something happens to them and you protect them. And when you see an individual doing these kinds of acts, and this is only 3 and there's millions. And now with the Epstein files being released and all that and everything that's coming to light, whether it's rumor or not, whether it's myth, legend, whatever it is, whatever shenanigans that gentleman did, the sick mind within these individuals to get to this point and think that they're going to completely be okay with it, for whatever satisfaction they feel within them because whatever trauma they had, mental health is a major problem. But I refuse mental health to be a justification why a person takes away the innocence of a young child, of somebody who's defenseless. There is zero room for justification in any of that. So as a parent, watching these 3 parents did what they did to those people, kudos to them. So now here's the very important thing, and I want to leave and close the message with this. If you know of someone or suspect of any child or underage person that has gone or is going through particular trauma, here's some key things you gotta look out for. So some of the physical signs, right? And I want you guys to pay attention to this, because if we know somebody is going through this, we need to be mindful of this and engage. Unexplained bruises, welts, burns, or fractures, injuries in unusual locations, pattern marks, whether it looks like it's a buckle or an object, multiple injuries at different healing stages, some old, some new ones, frequent accidents, delays in seeking medical care. If the parent refuses to take the kid to the hospital because they got injured, injuries inconsistent with the child's development and ability, non-mobile baby with injury, fell off a bike, bro, but the kid can barely even ride a bike. The injuries just don't jive and don't coincide. Pay attention to that. Behavioral and emotional signs that the child is flinching, if they have a fear of going home, if they have hypervigilance, always on edge, watchful, over-compliant, trying not to make anyone mad and is so completely scared, aggression, sudden changes in mood, sleep, appetite, school performance or behavior, wearing long sleeves consistently, pants in hot weather because they don't want to expose the rest of their body, avoiding sports and gym time, regression, could be sometimes bedwetting, thumb sucking, clinginess after being previously past that stage. And if you see a child all of a sudden regressing to that, those are major red flags that you as a parent need to engage and talk to that kid. And now, red flags and the caregiver's story or behavior. Inconsistent, vague, or changing the explanation of injuries. Explanation does not match this child's age or injury pattern. Blaming the child consistently. If the daycare does that a lot, he makes me do it. She's clumsy. She's evil. Or he's evil. Harsh discipline. Described with anger or pride. Unrealistic expectations for behavior. Delay in seeking care. Avoiding questions in medical evaluations. Caregiver appears controlling. That's a major red flag for you as a parent. Won't let the child speak, won't allow a private conversation because they feel that they need to be there. That's a major red flag for you that you need to talk to that kid about what's really going on. History of violence, substance, misuse, or extreme stress with no support, no proof, but increased concern. So all these red flags, all these things that I'm looking at and I just divulged could be easily approached and engaged when you, I just said it, engage with your child. Talk with your kids. As busy as we are, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with our own personal lives, whether you're co-parenting, sit down and talk to that kid if you notice that these behaviors aren't jiving. Because if they are young now and this continues now, it will only get progressively worse to the point that some of the damage that these kids are going to be having is going to be irreparable. They're going to be irreversible. In often cases, it's going to be so far off advance, that they themselves are going to in turn do the same thing that was done to them. And the cycle goes back. You want to break that cycle. Don't enable it by saying nothing. So if you are too shy, or you have concerns, if a child is in danger, call 911. If you suspect abuse, please, you can always contact Child Protective Services in your area. Child Help National Abuse Hotline is 1-800-4A-CHILD. The number is 1-800-422-4453, and they can walk you through what you're seeing and the next steps. Whether it's your kid or whether it's somebody you know, if you see these patterns and changes in development, speak up, because that kid obviously does not have a voice loud enough to be heard, and you can be that. So kudos to Mr. Cain Velasquez. God bless, and I'm glad that he's out. I'm glad he's finally back with his family, and kudos to the 2 other parents that protected their child. So with that being said, enjoy your trips. Watch out for those weird ass hotel rooms with the see-through freaking bathrooms, because that is funny as hell. Read up, catch up on your homework, because your kids are going to be teenagers one day, and they're going to bring you some shit that you're going to be like, what am I going to do? What do I do? And lastly, keep protecting your parents, because nobody else will. All right. And double check those references on your childcare and daycare. Read up on comments. If it's a small private spot, do even more of your due diligence. If it's really dirt cheap, hey, sometimes if you're going to have to pay more because there's more accountability on the back end from the child care's place, do it. Make sacrifices if you're able to. And if you're co-parenting, hold the other parent accountable, because you both are working together for the development of that child. And if you're going to be introducing different adults and human beings into that child's life, it is your responsibility as a parent to hold that person accountable and hold them to a strict level of expectation of how to be around with your kid. All right. So let's protect each other. Peace, love, God bless, and good night. See you guys next week. Thank you.